Hello there, it's 8 p.m. in Banjul. This is Gambia Radio and Television Services. We're bringing you the news live in our studios here on MDI Road. In our top stories this hour, His Excellency Adama Barrow bids farewell to athletes, coaches and officials taking part in the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham and the Islamic Games in Konya, Turkey. Cabinet approves the Gambia Prisons Amendment Bill 2022 at a meeting held at State House in Banjul. Ministry of Health validates the draft bill for the establishment of the College of Physicians and Surgeons of the Gambia. Away from home, President Uhuru Kenyatta announces a stimulus package aimed at alleviating the high cost of living for vulnerable households. Elsewhere, the European Central Bank raised interest rates for the first time in 11 years, becoming the latest central bank to act against inflation. With details of these and other stories coming ahead this hour with me, Fatu Elika Muloshi. Many thanks for joining us. We begin with the presidency as His Excellency Adama Barrow Friday bid farewell to athletes, coaches and officials taking part in the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham and the Islamic Games in Konya, Turkey. 16 athletes will be competing in the Birmingham Games, whilst 25 others will represent the Gambia in the Islamic Games under different categories. Our presidential correspondent Mamadou Jallo has the rest of the story.
The President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, handing over the Gambian flag to the team captain Omar Dabo as they prepare to leave for the Commonwealth Games in England and the Islamic Games in Konya, Turkey. More than 40 Gambian athletes competing in different categories will represent the country in the Games in what has been described as a major development for Gambian sports. The President of the Gambian National Olympic Committee, Beatrice Allen, said the athletes are well prepared and motivated ahead of the Games, expressing gratitude to the government for the support and encouragement.
For athletics, we have 7 athletes, swimming 2 athletes, judo 2 athletes, boxing 2 athletes, beach volleyball 2 athletes, powerlifting 1 athlete. And for the first time, beach volleyball qualified for the Games. And it has never happened, and it has happened. For the Konya Games, we have swimming 3 athletes, judo 5 athletes, taekwondo 1 athlete, para-athlete 1 athlete, para-table tennis 1 athlete, and basketball 3x3 female.
The Minister of Youth and Sports, Bakari Baji, thanked the President for receiving the athletes at short notice, and a lot of work has been done to prepare them for the task ahead. He reassured that government will continue to support sports development in the Gambia to enable young people realize their potential.
Under the leadership of President Adama Barrow, government is doing whatever it can to ensure that we provide the basics that are needed to ensure our sportmen and women do well, not just at the local level, but at the international level. We have contributed our own part in addition to what the GNOC is able to raise locally, but also from the IOC. Your Excellency, it will be good to note that
the President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, said the Gambia has been making remarkable progress in sports recently, adding that there is still room for improvement. He therefore advised the athletes to be disciplined, have self-confidence and belief, and be worthy ambassadors of the Gambia.
One thing is very important if you are in sport or whatever you are doing in life. Self-confidence must be there. And work as a team. Working as a team is key to success. And I think the GNOC President and the Honorable Minister, their working relationship is paying off for this country.
The President also assured the athletes of his government support, arguing that the political will and commitment is greater given the potential for sports to enhance socio-economic and infrastructural development.
We want to assure you as a government, as President, that the political will to support sports in this country is very, very high. Our commitment to support sports is more than 100%. And we want the results. We want you to bring results for us because you have your fans back home here who are following you day and night.
President Barrow finally encouraged the team to work hard and remain focused, predicting a bright future for Gambian sports as it continues to break new grounds. Mamadou Diallo, GRTS News.
Meanwhile, Cabinet has discussed two important papers, the Gambia Prisons Amendment Bill 2022 and the Motor Traffic Regulation, Motor Vehicle Inspection and Drivers Testing Program Regulations, tabled for consideration and approval by the Honorable Minister of Interior, Siaka Sonko. Introducing the Cabinet paper on the Gambia Prisons Amendment Bill 2022, Cabinet was informed that an Act of Parliament established the Gambia Prison Service in 1957. That up-to-date remains the fundamental instrument of prison administration without being aligned with our present-day realities regarding criminal justice administration. The Cabinet was further informed that the formulation of this bill, once approved, will not only improve justice delivery, but would also accommodate international best practices on prisons management and governance in the Gambia. The impetus for inspiration by the Ministry of the Interior was derived from the Gambia National Security Policy and Strategy, particularly the Security Sector Reform Assessment, findings and recommendations, which was approved by a Cabinet decision in 2017. This Ministry of the Interior, through policy, guidelines and strategies, and working in consultation with stakeholders and development partners, initiated the amendment of the Gambia Prison Service Bill. Following a critical review of all the integral elements of the bill, Cabinet finally approved it. The bill seeks to establish the Gambia Prison Service and the Gambia Prison Service Council to regulate prisons, custody treatment, and prisoners, which is in line with international best practices and connected matters. Now, the Motor Traffic Regulation, Motor Vehicle Inspection and Drivers Testing Program Regulations document was also discussed. The purpose of this Cabinet paper is to provide the legal and technical framework for a comprehensive motor vehicle inspection mechanism. It also looks at driver testing programs to enable the Ministry of Interior through the Gambia Police Force to enforce the Motor Traffic Act and fulfill its mandate. The regulations aimed at controlling and managing road traffic to curb accidents and safeguard lives and property. Non-empirical evidence reveals that several causes may be responsible for road accidents in the Gambia. However, the three most important among them: 1. The technical state and age of the motor vehicle. 2. The nature of our road infrastructure. 3. And the driver's driving qualifications or skills and attitude while driving. Cabinet was informed that 354 deaths from road accidents alone were registered within the past 3 years. These alarming death rates have precipitated increasing concern for the government and the Gambian populace in general. Statistics from the Gambia Police Force reveal that traffic accidents are the 7th highest cause of death and the 12th highest cause of physical disability in persons between the ages of 5 and 49. Road traffic requires critical oversight, management, and regulation, as well as motor traffic law enforcement and strict penalties to reduce the high rate of road accidents in the Gambia. This can be achieved reliably through frequent and periodic motor vehicle inspections and driver testing programs for effectiveness and efficiency. However, given that some critical stakeholders have not been active in the process, Cabinet has advised that the paper be subject to more consultation with binding partners. Moving on, the Ministry of Health recently validated the draft bill for the establishment of the College of Physicians and Surgeons of the Gambia. The day-long event was held at a local hotel, gathering stakeholders in the country and the sub-region. Rahibite reports.
This development is part of the process towards the establishment of the College of Physicians and Surgeons. The draft bill, validated by stakeholders in the health sector, is aimed at improving and building capacity of health professionals for better healthcare service delivery. The Gambia is said to be currently battling a shortage of professional health specialists whose concentration is mostly in the urban areas. Formation of a College of Physicians and Surgeons is indeed timely.
Gambia has shortage of healthcare professionals, and this has been even more felt during the COVID-19 pandemic. Most countries in Africa are now in long-term health workforce shortage crisis. With about 230 medical doctors, Gambia has a doctor population ratio of 1 to 10,000.
The need to train home-based postgraduate health officials is long overdue. The validation of a draft bill for the establishment of the College of Physicians and Surgeons of the Gambia is believed to be on the right track in addressing the shortages faced in the sector.
We've been getting a lot of expatriates from Cuba and other countries. They've been working very hard to provide the necessary services for the people of this country. But that is not sustainable. Sustainability becomes a problem, so we need to build local capacity. We need to train in-house. I'm happy that the Secretary General of the College did mention that Gambia was one of the founding members of the college. Unfortunately, we are starting now, but I think we are starting well, because we have the unique opportunity to learn from all of us.
They are not left alone in this journey, as sister colleges from Ghana, Liberia, and the West African colleges of physicians and surgeons were present to guide them through their experiences, with focus on the vision of the Gambia's health sector.
Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, representing the Ministry of Health of Ghana and the government of Ghana, we pledge our support to work with the College of Physicians and Surgeons of the Gambia to make sure that this endeavor results in resounding success.
There will be many challenges, even from your residents, from your faculties, for fundings, policies. But let me encourage you not to give up. Remain strong. Please don't give up. I was told by the Ghanaians and by the Nigerians that every senior colleague in the system might discourage you to start the program, but don't give up. Above all, God will provide you the strength.
Whatever you do, you should keep in view the standards of West African Health Organization for postgraduate training in the sub-region. That way, whatever document you come up with will stand the test of time and submit to the guidelines of the West African Health Organization.
Experts are said to have done a good job on the bill as they progressed, and surgeons. Rohi Bitey, GRTS.
Well, an important health validation forum drawing guidelines for the establishment of the College of Physicians and Surgeons of the Gambia. This takes the health system on a committed drive to expand health expertise consultancy services covering critical Medicare areas on the surgery. For more on the development, we're now joined live in the studio by the Director of Health Services, Dr. Mustafa Bitey, who doubles as the chairman of the standing committee assigned over the draft bill. Well, Mr. Bitey, greetings.
Good evening.
How will the establishment of a College of Surgeons impact the health sector?
Good evening to all our listeners, but that is a big impact it's going to have in the health sector, because what it does is it's going to help in the training of specialists, what we really lack in the Gambia. Because if you look at the health statistics that we are talking about, the health workers ratio to the population, the Gambia, for example, where we're seeing health workers having 1.74 per thousand to, compared to what WHO is saying, to 2.25, that's minimum you need. When you come to specialists, it's even far lower, because the numbers we are quoting is like 1.04 per 10,000 population. That's very low. So what it means is, where you need to have specialists to take care of people in Bansang, in cardiac conditions, or in obstetrics, they are not there. So then you have to compromise and do tax shifting. What a specialist is supposed to do, then you give it to somebody less qualified to do, like a medical officer. That's why our referrals outside of Gambia is very high.
And that is not promising. So what is the current stage of the implementation after the validation process?
Now that we've validated, thank God, really we have to thank all Gambians, the current government, Minister of Justice, and especially World Bank. World Bank has really supported to ensure that we reach this level. So the next level is, it's going to Minister of Justice. They will draft it and then send it back to the Minister of Health, who will now take it to Cabinet. And after that, now we go to the last lab, which is the National Assembly. And it needs to be justified there, and then they debate it before it is passed as an act.
Now, the West Africa College of Surgeons mostly provide and facilitates Medicare certification and consultancy. Will this change under the new Gambia College of Surgeons?
So the standards will be maintained, but I must say that we are like the last among the Sierra Leone has it, Liberia, Ghana, Nigeria. Now Gambia is coming on, and maybe other few countries also will come on. But it's long overdue. And so, but we have to maintain the WAHO standard. So that's West African Health Organization. We must maintain that standard, otherwise you will not get accreditation.
And what's the standard?
So, so that means that for every of our program must be accredited. We have to bring experts down to come and see what we have, because you cannot train people in vacuum or in less standard places. So you need to have the equipment, you need to have the machines, you need to have the qualified people. And that's why the government and World Bank has spent already a lot of resources to bring a lot of experts. Now we have about 17 experts from different professors in different areas who are in country helping to start the training already under the West African College of Surgeons. But we want to have it as a Gambia college and with our own capacity.
And who checks the standard?
Now is the West African College of Surgeons and West African College of Physicians who come, we bring them on board, they go around regularly and say that, oh, you need to have this, you need to have that. And when you put it there, they assess and say, okay, we'll give you accreditation for 2 years, then they come back and see. So that's what we are doing now.
Well, we've seen that you've taken this very seriously of recent. Tell us, when are we expecting a fully draft bill?
It depends. I think
that's a sigh there.
Yeah, the rate limiting step there, I think, will be the National Assembly, because they usually will not fast track any bill. But the way we are going, we are hoping maybe September, October, we should have something out, an act.
How hopeful can Gambians be for this new latest development?
No, this is a big feat for the Minister of Health and for the Gambians in general, because what it means is we are going to train. What it took us to be trained was you have to be out of your country for 4 or 6 years. You know, you have to pay like $10,000 per year. You have to be away from your family. But what we are doing now is to give the Gambian doctors coming out hope. Instead of all of them going out, the attrition rate was 70%. But if you have now the training here, then they don't go out and they stay here, they marry, and they are more likely to stay here. But
and
when they go
we have qualified doctors as well, or specialized doctors in these areas.
Yes, the idea is to train specialized doctors in all these areas. Like, for example, now we have cardiologists. If we train interventional cardiologists in Gambia, we'll have enough to take care of everyone. If you have orthopedic surgeons, we will have enough to take care of them in the country.
Very well, that's a great development, of course. Doctor, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
That was Dr. Mustafa Bite there, Director of Health Services, as well as the Chairman of the Standing Committee assigned over the draft bill. Thank you. Well, away from that, the Minister for Tourism and Culture, Honorable Hamad Bah, is on a 3-day official visit to the United Kingdom, meeting major tourism and travel industry experts. Minister Bah met a delegation of Gambian community leaders at the Gambia High Commission in London to discuss wide range of issues on concern to the Gambian diaspora. Issues such as increased volume of flights and baggage allowances for airlines flying to the Gambia, the lack of Gambian-owned cultural community centers in the United Kingdom, land disputes in the Gambia, promoting the Gambian brands in the UK, engaging the Gambian community in responsible tourism, cultural promotion, the negative behaviors of certain Banjul airport officials towards Gambians on arrivals, and amongst others were discussed. In his response, Minister Bah promised to share matters discussed with cabinet colleagues. He emphasized that the diaspora is an important pillar in advancing the Gambian development agenda, and the government takes the concerns of diaspora seriously. The meeting was facilitated by the current charge d'affaires at the Gambia High Commission, Mr. Suntu Ture. He laments that an open dialogue between the government of His Excellency President Adama Barrow The diaspora will only lead to mutual gains for the Gambia. Mr. Toure extended the honor to the Tourism and Culture Minister, Honorable Ahmad Ba, to present certificates of recognition to Mr. Imam B. Jaite for his work in promoting community cohesion among Gambians, religious and charity work, and close friendship with the High Commission. Mr. Amadou Jallo, Mrs. Aida Sanya, Mbemba Silla, Imam Baicham, Mr. Ibu Jawara all received recognition for community service in the United Kingdom from the High Commission. The Gambia High Commission appreciates the tremendous work of the army of volunteers among Gambians in diaspora. Honorable Bah is accompanied by the Director General of the Gambia Tourism Board and Director of Marketing, Mr. Abubakar S. Kamara and Mr. Adam Anjai, respectively. And now to a press release from Gambia Public Procurement Authority, and it reads, the public, especially the business community and procuring organization, are hereby informed to kindly take note of the following. All procurement submissions for request for approval shall be reviewed by a committee and henceforth will be officially stamped and signed solely by either of the following directors: Director of Compliance and Procurement Practices, Director of Procurement Policy and Operation. Any approval not signed and stamped by a director should be considered invalid and not honored by the authority, and by extension should not be honored by the procuring organization. Furthermore, the procuring organization are henceforth urged to report any evidence of inconsistency contradictory to this press release. Management continues to seek your support in ensuring that procurement processes in the public sector are open, fair and transparent, and that they deliver best value for money. The release ends. Now, as preparations ahead of the commemoration of the 13th National Youth Conference and Festival, NACOF, the National Youth Council under the Ministry of Youth and Sports on Friday inaugurated the National Organizing Committee for the event at a local hotel in Kololi. The launching attracted youth, government officials and youth council members. Janke Toure reports.
National Annual Youth Conference and Festival NACOF is a critical convergence bringing together the nation's youth to discuss their role in the national development and issues affecting their lives. This roundtable is meant to inaugurate the National Organizing Committee for the upcoming event, slated for December this year.
A robust pre-NACOF consultation takes into account the views, youth and stakeholders to inform the outcome. Thematic conference format allows for specialized and structured content delivery and impact evaluation. The results of this has been the formulation of the Gambia Country Program of Action on Youth, GIPI, which shall be the guiding framework for upcoming and subsequent NACOF. Young people will clearly outline their roles and responsibilities in maintaining peace and security for socio-economic development of the country.
This year's event is centered on the role of young people in the maintenance of peace and security for socio-economic development, as well as challenges and opportunities in a focus the officials described as apt and timely.
And the time has come for you to come to work on Saturday and Sundays. This is the time when everyone becomes an automatic workaholic without pay. This is done in order to have a very successful NACOF for the first time in the Third Republic. Nothing good comes easy, and I am certain, without a threat of uncertainty, that a team of this kind, we have already having our eyes on the prize of NACOF, which is success.
The program was attended by youth participants and leaders alongside government officials, among other important dignitaries. The Deputy Mayor of Banjul, Omar Toure, highlighted the significance of the NACOF Festival and its unique convergence of youths embracing a common progressive future.
As you all know, NACOF is a very important component for youths. It's long overdue that Banjul should host it, but the COVID and a lot of things happening here and there, the elections and all those things involved. But we are committed and we are ready to host it. And everything we discussed prior, we will fulfill it, inshallah. And we have very competent people here who have experience on NECOF.
This government believes that leaders of this country, not only by word, but by practice. Let me assure you also, with the President's office, we are ready to contact us, NECOF, whenever you have trouble.
The Permanent Secretary at Ministry of Youth and Sports said the National
Gambia Red Cross Society on Thursday organized a review session to evaluate the financial and material support it rendered to victims of internal displaced people in Fonyi due to the armed conflict in neighboring Casamance, southern Senegal. The forum held in Kanilai was attended by senior officials of Gambia Red Cross Society and partners, as well as some beneficiaries of the humanitarian support. Ibrahim Jallo has the details.
It was an assessment meeting following a rapid humanitarian response to urgent needs of internally displaced families in Fonyi due to conflict between the Senegalese military and the MFDC separatists in the Casamance region. Andrew Jadu, Disaster Management Coordinator at the Gambia Red Cross Society, said a rapid assessment was conducted, followed by the disbursement of support in the form of cash and relief materials.
As the situation at the time remained volatile, complex, and unpredictable, the Gambia Red Cross Society successfully launched the application of funding to the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies Systems of Emergency Funding format that is called DREF. This fund is an integral part of the International Federation Emergency Response System designed to meet the immediate humanitarian needs of affected people in emergency situations. DREF funds are released rapidly to the National Society who need it, particularly for immediate humanitarian assistance or the implementation of emergency plan of action, just as the one we are now addressing.
The emergency response was a crucial intervention by the Gambia Red Cross Society and partners, according to Sarah Pricio, a technical assistant for the International Federation of Red Cross, covering the Sahel cluster.
Results were achieved, as well as the successes, and importantly also the challenges, so that we can inform future operations. The second is to determine lessons learned so that we don't make the same errors next time, and we learn from this experience, which is a first for the Gambian Red Cross.
The president of the Gambia Red Cross Society, Jato Silla, disclosed that thousands of people in over 40 communities were affected, prompting an emergency response by his institution and partners, including the Gambia government, providing much needed support.
The Gambia Red Cross Society, with all the support from partners, jointly assess the needy and verify the households that are eligible for support. Provisional of unconditional cash to over 1,382 affected families involving host families, and distribution of goods and beddings for households affected. As mentioned, hygiene kits were among the package distributed, and hygiene promotion activities. Free community medical service and provision of psychological support to affected families has been very, very eminent and was highly needed.
Beneficiaries of the humanitarian support package, including one Ibrahim Bojang and Ami Jaju from Balen village, shared their impression for the support.
Maa ngi kontaan si fi Red Cross ba pare Red Cross jox nañ ma bagage.
The Gambia Red Cross Society staff and volunteers were said to have spent 6 months in Fonyi, providing humanitarian assistance to victims of the Casamance conflict. Ibrahim Jallo, GRTS News.
Well, moving on to some disaster management matters, the National Disaster Management Agency recently held a day-long consultative meeting with various stakeholders in disaster management in the Lower River region. The forum held in Mansakonko was supported by the UNDP, focusing on the midterm review of the Sendai Framework on Disaster Risk Reduction. Usman Balde witnessed the event and prepared this report.
The Deputy Executive Director of the National Disaster Management Agency has described the Sendai Framework as crucial in disaster risk reduction. Sering Modu Juve made the remarks in Mansakonko at the end of a day-long consultation with stakeholders on the implementation of the framework.
Because what Sendai talks about is
how can we make our lives and our livelihood better? How can the human being be more dignified? What are those issues that is stopping the way we are to progress? What are the hindering factors? What should we do? And that's exactly what each and every institution is doing here. How can we raise livelihood better? How can we ensure we have a better education, we have a better health, we have a better agriculture, so that our people would live amicably? This is what Sandai is looking for. And this is why we are gathered here, so that anything that is supposed to be said has to be linked to the work that you are doing in order to alleviate poverty.
Bubakar Fofana, the M&E officer at NDMA, explained that the global review of the framework will help member states and the United Nations office responsible for disaster management to assess the level of implementation if the framework is far.
But we cannot know that without assessing what is happening in our member state. And also there is going to be a world gathering next year in which we expect the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, to give a world report on disaster risk reduction. And he cannot make that report without getting information from member states. So this is why countries around the world are conducting these Sandai reviews, so that they will be able to compile their report and send to the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. So these are the reports that the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction is going to compile to form the World Report on Disaster Risk Reduction.
Mamadou B.K. Sise is the Regional Disaster Management Coordinator for Lower River Region. He thanked the NDMA management for organizing such stakeholders forum at regional level. The consultation was meant to review the country's implementation of the Sandai framework so far and as well improve community participation in disaster risk reduction, preparedness and response as highlighted in the framework. Usman Balde, GRTS News.
Well, from that report by Usman Balde, similar exercise also took place in the Upper River region by officials of National Disaster Management Agency. In this report prepared by our correspondent Sedo Kamara, the Sendai Framework on Disaster Risk Reduction 2015 to 2030 aims to achieve substantial reduction of disaster risk and loss of lives and livelihoods.
The Sendai Framework on Disaster Risk Reduction is an ambitious international agreement with 4 priorities for action aimed at substantial reduction of disaster risks, loss of lives and livelihoods, as well as sustainability in health, education, economics, and other related areas affecting human resilience. The Deputy Executive Director of the National Disaster Management Agency, Seri Modujuv, said the framework was drawn by 180 leaders in a Japanese community called Sendai. The NDMA executive said the agreement is meant to bring and so improve living conditions to protect communities and public property.
The whole thing is crafted in a way that every sector has a bit to do about it. It's an issue of NDMA being the lead institution in coordinating issues of disaster. That's why we are taking the lead. But in terms of disaster risk reduction, in terms of poverty alleviation, in terms of reducing risk or mitigating the effects of disasters, every institution, be it agriculture, be it education, be it governor's office, be it the disabled, be it the youth, each and every one of us is doing something about it.
In an overview of the Sendai framework, Abubakar Fofana explained that the guideline was designed to specifically reduce disaster for sustainable development. Fofana called for concerted efforts by all stakeholders in achieving the framework objectives.
Sendai framework, as Bature mentioned, this was a framework that was developed in 2015, and it's supposed to serve 15 years. It's 2015 to 2030. So right now we are almost halfway of the implementation of that framework. So the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction felt it necessary that we need to conduct an assessment so that we will be able to know how far have we gone in the implementation of this framework. Are we making progress or are we not making progress? So
if we are able to assess ourselves properly, then we will be able to know what is the way forward.
Pate Balde, a representative of the regional governor, described the midterm review as an important component, saying it has shown the NDMA's commitment in coping disaster in the country.
When we talk of national reports, it's touching from the length and breadth of the country. So your coming here is obviously quite important, and be assured that you have a team of participants here who are going to fully participate, who are going to do everything possible to make sure by the time you leave here, you have a very broad and well-explained report that will represent and give you the true reflection of what is happening in this region. Yes, you would agree with me. Our region is very prone to disasters. Every year, we are never left behind when it comes to disaster in this country, ranging from windstorms to fire disasters to flood disasters. Of course, as the Office of the Governor is fully aware and has recognized the efforts that the NDMA has been doing in this region, but we equally also appeal and urge your office to help us do more.
Officials said the assessment is a voluntary exercise necessary to understand challenges and achievements in disaster intervention registered in connection to the Sendai framework. The NDMA Sendai Forum is a unique opportunity to hear from the regional stakeholders on what to do in addressing disaster as far as the framework is concerned. Seydou Camara, reporting for GRTS News from Basse Upper River region.
Seydou there. With that, we take a short break. Sports news is up next. Stay. Welcome back. Now, the 2022 Wimbledon Championship runners-up, Ons Jabeur, has returned home to a heroic welcome in Tunisia after making history in England as the first African to play in a Grand Slam final. The rise of the WTA fifth-ranked player has generated overwhelming interest in the sport in her home country. As well, the government of Kenya has stepped in to deal with the rising cost of basic commodities. The cost of maize flour has been cut in half. A 2-kilogram packet of maize flour will now be retailed at 84 US cents instead of $1.77. Critics say President Uhuru Kenyatta is using the measure to influence the choice of his successor in the 9th August election. The government has blamed external factors, including the conflict in Ukraine, for affecting the prices of fuel and food. And an agreement to resume grain shipment from Ukrainian ports through the Black Sea will be signed in Turkey on Friday in a bid to resolve a global food crisis. Turkey's Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu confirmed on Thursday, on July 21 the signing ceremony of the grain shipment agreement, in which President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres will be present, will be held Friday with the participation of Ukraine and Russia, the Turkish leader's office said. Elsewhere, the European Central Bank has raised interest rates for the first time in 11 years, becoming the latest central bank to act against inflation. The ECB lifted its key interest rate by a surprise 50 basis points on July 21, the first hike since 2011 and more than expected, as it attempts to curb soaring inflation in the Eurozone. Well, you're watching us live from Banjul. A quick look at our top stories before we go. His Excellency Adama Barrow has bid farewell to athletes, coaches and officials taking part in the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham and the Islamic Games in Konya, Turkey. Cabinet has approved the Gambia Prisons Amendment Bill 2022 at a meeting held at State House in Banjul. Ministry of Health has validated the draft bill for the establishment of the College of Physicians and Surgeons of the Gambia. Away from home, President Uhuru Kenyatta has announced a stimulus package aimed at alleviating the high cost of living for vulnerable households. Elsewhere, the European Central Bank has raised interest rates for the first time in 11 years, becoming the latest central bank to act against inflation. That's all in this bulletin. I'll be back again at 2200 hours for more. Until then, enjoy the rest of our programs.